A shape, F chord, pentatonic, and major scale position 5, or A shape, F chord position. Get ready, because it's time to rock and or roll. Here we are in our worksheet where we have the top string on top, that being the low or heavy E string, the one closest to the ceiling, the high string on the bottom, the one closest to the floor, the 0 representing the open fret, the fret that, if indicated, you wouldn't be fingering, but rather ringing it out as open. Frets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, being the ones that you would be fingering if indicated in this case by the orange areas here. We're now going to be looking at the A shape in the F chord. So we're looking A shape, F chord. Let's review what we've seen before. The A shape in the open position. So we always learned these shapes in the open position. We will learn this as an A type of shape, but you want to be able to have in your mind it's an A shape in the open position. You don't usually say that, but you want to have that in your mind so that when you move it up, you can still call it an A shape, but a different chord, such as a B chord, as we've seen, a C chord, a D chord, an E chord, an F chord, and so on and so forth. And the open position will typically be fingering this, possibly with one finger, maybe your pointer finger, possibly with 3 fingers. Your smallest fingers typically would probably be the best fingering here, and then we will be leaving these 2 items open, the A being the root of the chord. We want to know what that is and be able to visualize it as we move up the fretboard, no matter how we're fingering it, because that's going to tell us what key or what chord we're going to be playing in. As we move it up, say we move it up here to a B, then we could just keep our same fingering, which is like our pointer finger here, or possibly our 3 small fingers, to play that way and just play these 3 notes. That would be the easiest way to finger it, and you'd still be playing, in essence, a nice chord there. But you want to be able to refer back to the fact that this note, even if you're not fingering it, is going to be the root. You could say, look, that B is also something I could follow along with, as I could with the A here, but you probably don't know the notes on the G string, so you want to be able to eyeball this note, even if you're not playing it. Oftentimes you will be playing it because this is a common bar-shaped chord, so you do want to refinger this one and know how to do that. Putting your pointer finger, for example, here, which would be on the root, typically your ring finger here, possibly your pinky here to cover these, and then you could be having this nice movable shape, which is quite common and useful to be playing a B chord, and then you can move it up for the C chord, to the D, and then now we're up in the E, and then to the F. So now we're taking a look at the F position. So same concept, in that we can use this position as that maneuverable bar chord, now playing an F in that nice barring A type of position. You can still see it here as an A shape, and you could still finger it as an A shape in the same way, or you could adjust your fingering to get that bar shape, which is quite common. And you can also use this to position yourself to know where you are on the fretboards. You could arpeggiate the notes if you're hearing a song, say, in the key of F, or which has a chord of F in it, and you can then arpeggiate over the entire song if it's in the key of F, or when you're progressing to the F progression in the song, possibly move up and do some fingering here, voicing different formats of the arpeggio. If we were to format or take a look at our theory for an F scale, we can take all of our notes from F to F, and then do our whole half type of progression. F, whole step to G, whole step to A, half step to A sharp, whole step to C, whole step to D, whole step to E, and then a half step back to F. So we got basically down here, we're looking F, G, A sharp, C, D, E, and then back on over to F. We can number those notes from 1 to 7. We can then take every other note for the first 3, so the 1, 3, 5, which would be F, A, and C. So if we build our chord, we should be saying F, A's, and C's here. So we see here that we're going to be putting, if we do our bar chord, the pointer on the F, that would be the root, and then the C, F, A, noting that you could then finger this with just one finger, or use your smaller fingers to finger this, even if you're not putting your finger here and you still have your C, F, and A, even though the F isn't the lowest note, you're still playing an F major chord, and then you've got the C down here, so you can then experiment with those notes to arpeggiate and so on and so forth. Then if we add the 2 other notes for the pentatonic around it, I'm going to unhide some cells to do that, unhiding some cells. I would still call this the position 5 pentatonic, because when I play in the key, as we saw back on over here, of C major or A minor, starting with this as position 1, then we would see this as position 5 here, and it would be that A position typically played in what I would call position 5 in like the home base of C major, A minor. And so over here, we're going to then say that you can also name it as saying you're going to say an A shape, that, and when you say A shape, that means it's A if it were played in the home position. So it's an A shape if played in the home position, that is now an F chord, because I know what my root is, pentatonic scale. So it's saying you can also just call it an A position pentatonic scale, an A shape pentatonic scale, which sounds funny to some degree, because if you're saying it's an A chord shape pentatonic scale, you're talking about a 3-note thing and a 5-note thing. But a lot of people will know what you mean. That's one way that people could try to explain how they're positioning, because you're saying, here, look, I'm on the A shape type of thing here, which has the pentatonic scale around it, the typical pentatonic, if you have the 5-position pentatonic scale, and I know it's in the key of F, because when I do my bar chord position, that's the root of the A shape. So that's going to be the explanation of that. And then, of course, you can add other notes as you then think about your chords and see if there's different voicings of it. And then you can add the pentatonic notes if you're playing along with the song and you want to accentuate it from that point. Then, of course, you can move on to the major scale. So if you went to the major scale, then you could do the same thing. You could say it's an A shape, basically major scale in the key of F. Now, again, you're saying A chord shape, major scale. So now you're talking about a chord shape which has 3 notes, and then referencing a major scale which has 7. But again, a lot of people will kind of know what you mean there, because you're trying to talk about your positions on the fretboard. And so a lot of people, if they know the fretboard as these 5 positions, they might, be able to kind of get an idea of what you're saying. They'll definitely be able to see what you're saying on the caged kind of system, with the idea of having the A shape in the F chord. And then you're going to say, expanding on that, the pentatonic shape beyond that, and then expanding on that, you're talking about the major shape. So once again, you can call it, then you're playing the A shape when it's in the home position or open position, A shape in the key of F, because when I play that shape here, my root is in the F major scale position, because you're around that position, the relative notes for the major scale have now been added. Those now being including the blue notes, which you can add on to your progressions as you move forward and try to play along with songs. What you could do if you're in the key of F, if we number this out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the chords that you can start to play and think about playing would be an F major, and then a G minor, an A minor, an A sharp major, a C major, a D minor, and then a diminished, which oftentimes will be dropped off on the 7 for the E. And then the 1, 4, 5, which is always a good place to start, would be the F major, A sharp major, and then the C major for the 1, 4, 5. And then if you're playing this position there, then you could basically use this position in the key of F to play along with the 1, 4, 5 as the progression changes, playing the pentatonic, playing the arpeggio, expanding to the 5-note pentatonic, and then expanding to the 7-note major. And then basically you could try to experiment moving that position to, for example, A sharp and the relative C as the chord progressions change, and experiment with that.